Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Mr. Merrigan's Moments in History, U.S. History Edition. Today's video is going to fall in line with a lot of the videos that have been here lately about providing another resource for my students. As we bring in more primary sources into our U.S. history class, I want to provide a resource for my students to help guide them through some of these primary sources that we're using in class and the activities that we're doing with them. So for my students today, and for anybody who wants to learn more about U.S. history, we're going to be reading from a letter between President Thomas Jefferson and Meriwether Lewis. And we know from class that Thomas Jefferson helps to acquire the Louisiana Purchase, and he's going to send Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, along with the Corps of Discovery, to help explore the Louisiana Territory. And in today's letter, we're going to focus a lot on, and as we annotate in class for my students in particular, we're going to be looking a lot at identifying perspective. You're going to see some phrases and some word choice in here that sort of give you an understanding of what Thomas Jefferson's perspective is, particularly on Native Americans, and the purpose of their journey, the purpose of their interactions with Native Americans, and the benefits that could have for the United States at this point. And then, of course, as always, I want you to look for words or phrases that you don't understand. As we annotate, we're going to really look for perspective. We're going to really look for purpose. So we might pause a couple times as we're reading to highlight a couple of those things. But what we're working towards is, as we read, we're going to use this turning fragments into sentences strategy. This comes from the writing revolution. And the idea is that I'm going to give you a couple of words like Thomas Jefferson and Native Americans. And based on what you read today, you're going to take those two subjects and you're going to write a complete sentence that connects to one of the ideas from the primary source that we're going to read in class. So we'll come back to this here at the end just to kind of go over it again, but let's give ourselves a little bit of the context, a little bit more understanding. So I always like to start with sourcing, and the great thing about the Shed group, now the Inquiry group, is that they always do a nice job here at the top and usually at the bottom of their documents in helping us source what we're looking at. So we know that this is a passage from a letter that's written by Thomas Jefferson to Meriwether Lewis, and it was on the date of June 20th, 1803. So here's some of the segments from that letter. Considering the interest which every nation has in extending and strengthening the authority of reason and justice among the people around them, it will be useful to acquire what knowledge you can of the state of morality, that's right and wrong, religion, so think like faiths, and information among them. And it may better enable those who may endeavor. The nice thing about this group is they bold some of these words and they give us the vocabulary. Endeavor means to try hard to do something. To civilize and instruct them. So already you're getting a really good example of perspective here. The fact that he uses the words civilize and instruct them already is telling you a little bit about what Thomas Jefferson's opinions are about Native Americans. That they need these things still. They need to be taught our ways. They need to be more civilized like Americans are, like Europeans are. And you can see he's even got them asking questions about where are they as far as morality and right versus wrong? What religions do they subscribe to or believe in? What information do they have? Probably with the idea of what can we learn from them, but also more importantly, what can we maybe teach them? All right, continuing on. In all your interactions with the natives, treat them in the most friendly and conciliatory manner. Conciliatory is a good word choice here. It means trying to avoid conflict. Assure them that the purpose of your journey is innocent. Now, again, we've got the benefit of hindsight. We know that maybe it's not purely as innocent as Jefferson wants them to think it is. Make them acquainted with or wish to be neighborly, friendly, and useful to them. Our wish to be neighborly, friendly, and useful to them. Again, reassure them that they're there and to trade with them. Find out what articles would be most desirable for both of us to trade. Again, the idea is Can the U.S. benefit from this relationship economically? Can we trade with them? Can we make money with them? Figure out what they want, figure out maybe what we want that they have, so we can build those trade networks between the two. All right, continuing on. If a few of their influential chiefs wish to visit us, arrange such a visit for them. If any of them wish to have some of their young people raised by us and taught things that may be of use to them, we will receive, bring them in, instruct, of course, teach, and take care of them, with the idea of making sure we take care of their well-being. Such a mission, whether of influential chiefs or of the young people, would give some security to your own party. So again, the idea of, hey, if you want to set up a meeting with some of these leaders, I'm more than willing to come and meet with them. If they want some of their young people to be raised by the United States and maybe through the military or through other organizations, this desire to do that, again, I think they're looking to maybe plant the seeds of influence and maybe try to sway Native Americans closer to, say, more the lifestyle of the Americans living in that time period. He continues, carry with you some smallpox medicine. This is something that had spread largely through native cultures really since Columbus arrived in the Caribbean. And instruct and encourage them to use it. Again, kind of a sign of goodwill. This may be done wherever you spend the winter. So you can see here that when he's talking about his perspective, we get some of that from like the words choice that he uses with things like civilize and instruct them. Certainly even this, like desire to maybe meet with influential chiefs and to potentially educate children, I think gets a lot to his purpose. And certainly in that second paragraph here, that purpose of setting up for trade. So now that we've read through this, what I would like my students to do is, I've given you these fragments, Thomas Jefferson and Native Americans. Based on what we just read, create a sentence with these two subjects that connects to something you read about. Either that's Thomas Jefferson's view on Native Americans or Thomas Jefferson's purpose for the trip regarding Native Americans. Same thing with this next one, with trade, potentially benefit, and influence. Think about how this core idea connects with these words based on what you read. Same thing with chiefs, civilize, and influential. Again, we saw the term influential chief. And again, this desire to maybe civilize and maybe set up trade or meet with these groups. Is or are both potentially terrible and excellent. As you look through this, what in here is potentially both a terrible thing, but also potentially an excellent thing? In the idea that maybe if you're struggling with this one a little bit, come back to this last one. The excellent part, carrying the medicine. Maybe the terrible part, think about maybe who's bringing it with them when they are traveling among Native Americans. And then lastly, education, the young Native Americans. So this one I want you to think about a lot about what was he saying about young people and education, and specifically young Native Americans. Lastly, in about a paragraph, what I'd like you to do is, based on this primary source, how does this better help you understand what Jefferson and the government's perspective is on Native Americans during the exploration of the Louisiana Purchase? I hope this helped for my students. And if you are here just to learn a little bit more about history, I hope maybe you gained some insight into some of the early beliefs of some of our early presidents, especially Thomas Jefferson's perspective on Native Americans in early American history. So thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next time on Mr. Merrigan's Moments in History.